Hi, this is Donna Shea from the Peter Pan Center, and I wanted to share a short video about some of the tips that we've been using with the kids in our social groups during the month of January 2019. So one of the things we talked about at the beginning of the month was, what can your brain do when it becomes anxious? There's three options that it has when something is sending a danger signal. And those can be to fight, to flee, or to freeze. So an example of freezing would be if your teacher tells you that you're going to be taking a timed test, your brain might freeze up and you might not be able to answer the questions. An example of fight would be if something is making you anxious, or you're walking into a new situation, or something has changed and you weren't expecting it, then you might become a little frustrated, a little angry, and maybe yell at somebody. That would be an example of fighting. And as far as fleeing, maybe you're walking into a situation that made you anxious and you just want to go hide, right? So we also worked on some tips about what to do when your anxiety is around playing a new game or trying something new that you've never done before. For example, you're going to be trying skiing for the very first time and you're afraid that you're not going to be good at it. So there's two things that you can try in those instances. One is to conjure up 20 seconds of bravery in your brain and say, I can do anything for 20 seconds, and give it a try. And after the end of 20 seconds, if you don't like it, well, then at least you knew. The same thing as if you try one new thing one time for just 1 minute. It's another way to know that it's not going to last forever and you can give it a try, but just maybe on the other end of that 1 minute, you'll have enjoyed what you did. The second thing we talked about in the month of January was how there are three possible outcomes to any choice that you make. There's a positive outcome, a negative outcome, or a neutral outcome. For example, if your mom puts broccoli on your plate and says you have to eat your broccoli or you're not going to have dessert tonight, if you like broccoli, that is a neutral outcome for you. You like the broccoli, you're going to get your dessert. That's no big deal. If your mom puts the broccoli on your plate and you don't like it and you throw a fit or maybe toss the plate, upside down or something like that, you're definitely probably going to have a negative outcome. You're not going to have dessert, and you might even get sent to your room, or even more broccoli the next day. And then the third way is if you don't like broccoli, but you're a trooper and you say, okay, Mom, I'm going to eat the broccoli even though I don't like it, then you're going to get dessert and you're going to have a positive outcome. Same thing happens when you're playing with friends. So for example, one of the examples that happens here quite frequently is one kid might be doing something that's a little annoying to another kid, maybe poking him or whatever, and the other kid says to stop, and the kid doesn't stop. And so I will coach that kiddo on, I see that you're choosing to poke your friend with that toy and he's asked you to stop. So the choice that you're making is probably going to have a negative outcome. He's not going to want to play with you anymore. Where if you stop when he asked you to stop the first time, you'll either have a positive outcome, he'll want to play with you, or even a neutral outcome. You'll both just go play something else. So it's really important to teach kids to learn that they are sometimes choosing their own self-amusement over the possibility of having a friendship. That happens here quite frequently. And the third thing we talked about in the month of January is, what is the only thing that you have control over? Really, the only thing that you have control over in your life is yourself. And that's your actions and your attitudes and your choices and your efforts and your motivations and all of those things. In reality, no one really has control over anybody. The kids mention me, well, my parents have control over me. And I'm like, yeah, they do. They have authority over you. But really, you're choosing to allow them to do that, because really, if you wanted to misbehave and face the negative consequences, you could choose to do that. But a lot of times, you're choosing not to do that. And then the other thing we talked about in that context of control is to try to focus on your own responsibilities and not what anybody else is doing, because we're really not the rule police over other people. And the other thing I see a lot with kids that we coach them on is how to work on ignoring other people's mistakes and flaws. How they said something, or if they spelled something wrong, or if they said something that wasn't right, or whatever. It's not the friendliest thing to do to correct somebody all the time. Kids don't like that, and really neither do adults. So that's a snapshot of what we worked on here in January, and I hope the tips are helpful elsewhere too. Thanks.